Hey, gonna rotate this. Okay, so I wanted to talk about isolation. That's always a good topic, right? And so I want to start off with saying this. My goal is always to be a better person than yesterday, and you're gonna understand why I'm saying this. Is last week was a week where I have to admit I was almost going down that isolation train because it's so comfortable, okay? Like it's so easy to get back into that pattern because naturally, yes, you see me here on video, but I am naturally like I believe I'm introverted when I'm home, but I'm extroverted when I go outside. And so last week was one of those weeks where I was kind of reverting back and I was getting very comfortable just staying in the house, and it was almost like I didn't want to do anything and it was comfortable, but one of the things I noticed was that my mood was different. And I didn't and you see previously in the past I wasn't able to analyze this, okay? Like how I was able to analyze it yesterday. Because I believe that last week was one of the first weeks where I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna work, maybe read a book here or two, and then stay home and just not go anywhere. And I remember literally, like, I could feel my mood going down. Like, it's a real thing, guys. Like, just staying in the house, okay? Like, especially if you're a homebody, that's cool, but there's clearly something about like going outside and doing something. I'm just looking here because there's a window there. But there's clearly something about like going out and doing something that you enjoy doing, whether that's going for a walk and or going out for ice cream. And I remember thinking like when I saw this last week, and there was remember and there was actually times I'm sharing this with you because I want to be very real with you and transparent. There was actually times where I was actually saying, man, like I'm so bored. I'm so bored. Like it got to that point. Now it wasn't that like I had nothing to do. I was still doing my work. But because I wasn't doing anything in the evening, it was very interesting to see. Because I've been working on myself for a while now. And just working on myself to push myself and go outside my comfort zone and do things that um is outside what I would normally do, not stay in the house, all this stuff. I'm sure you guys heard that story, but my goal has been to live my best life and just get out there and try new things. And so once I noticed that how my mood was, how it was plummeting, and like I was like, oh, I'm bored, and I'm like, I should not be bored, right? I remember thinking, okay, like next week we're gonna try something different, right? And so I say this because just because you are down and out and you maybe started a routine and you're doing things doesn't mean that you just keep on doing the same thing over and over, right? It doesn't mean that you keep on going. Like if you're up here, you do not just keep on going down and down and down. Like you do not have to stay there, right? And in the past, I have to admit, like I used to stay there where the point where my mood will just go down and down and down and down and down. I would stay in the house for like weeks. Obviously, I'd go out for I would go if I needed to do an errand, but I would stay in the house for weeks and weeks and weeks. And before then, I would get so depressed. And what I observed about last week was, wow, like there was a little bit of a transformation. Like I got to see, like, man, when you make those changes, it makes such a difference. Sometimes we think like because we feel uncomfortable that there's, how do I say it? Sometimes we think like we don't realize the impact of making yourself uncomfortable until you start to revert back to how you used to do things, right? So it was very interesting to see. And what I liked, there were some things that I liked though, is that this time, because I was such in a, like, I would call it a self-care stage because I've been in such a self-care stage. Like, I've been at like an 8.5 out of 10 if I were to number it. And finally, I plummeted down. I didn't get to the point where I was like so low that I had to fight to push myself back up. And that's what we don't realize. It's sometimes the small things. We always hear that saying, right? But it has true meaning once you start comparing it to, and you're like, but wait, like it has so much meaning. And so it's the small things that will help you. So when those times get really hard, you're not like going deep, like you're not going so low that it's hard to get yourself back up. You're up here, but then you go down a little bit lower, and then you're so self-aware now because you know what it feels like when you're taking care of yourself and you're doing things outside your comfort zone. So you know what it feels like. So now when you go a little lower, you're like, hold on, something's different. And hey, Necro, and hey, Conversations with Adrian. Thanks for being here. And so you know what that feels like. So now you're aware because you're like, something's different. I remember, guys, that like maybe like about a year ago, okay? It used to be so, no, this was like, I guess between the 2 to 3 years. I used to not be able to sense when I was getting in a depression state. I didn't even know this was a thing. What I mean by this is, let's say something happened. So there's actually, okay, let me back up a bit. There's actually ways to monitor your emotions. So let me explain. So if every day you start to pay attention to your energy. So this is nothing woo woo. So like if you woke up and you're like, okay, how am I feeling right now? And let's say you're like, okay, today I feel like at an 8. And then the next day you will feel at a 5. And then the next day you feel at a 7, right? You'll start to notice patterns about yourself. You'll start to notice that certain days you start to like plummet down, and then certain days you go back up. It's very interesting to see. So for me, it used to be on Sundays and Mondays or something like around that time. And it wasn't every week though, but for some reason, certain parts of the month, I would notice that I would start to feel like very negative. I would start to feel like I'm plummeting. And it was actually a coach that I'd hired pointed this out. And she was like, because I was like, well, how do I know when I'm going to be going down here? Because the goal is that if you're here, you want to be able to catch yourself before you get like all the way down. I hope I'm explaining this as clearly as possible. And then she said, well, you have to measure how you're feeling. So she was like, you need to measure like a goalpost. Like there has to be a way for you to measure and see like, okay, okay, I'm noticing that when I go to this meeting, I'm feeling a little low. So maybe that's my sign that in 2 to 3 days, I'm going to get more depressed. And so I thought it was interesting at the time. And then once I started paying attention, that's when I used to be able to catch it and be like, oh, I'm going down low. So let me go do something that I enjoy doing or whatever that may be. And so going back to this, so last week was that goalpost where I was like, this is interesting. Like I'm saying I'm bored. I believe when I started saying I was bored, that's when I was catching it, because I don't know about for most people, is that when I'm bored, I'm bored. Let's just say I start to do mischievous thing. Nothing crazy though, nothing crazy. But I'm good. Like I'm in a place where I'm not lonely. I feel really good about myself. But like when I'm bored, like anything, when a child, they're doing nothing, they start doing mischievous things. Like that's how I am. Like when I'm bored, it's like my mind starts going. I start thinking about everything, analyzing things, and I noticed that, and I was like, okay, next week we're gonna change that. We're not getting isolated up in this house. We're not becoming a hermit. I like how you said that, Adrian. I've allowed myself to become a hermit. I'm working on this though. Yeah. So that's what was happening is I was becoming a hermit last week, and I did notice the difference. And so what I did this week, where I was like, you know what, we're gonna go on walks. I'm gonna force myself to go on walks. I even went to an event this week. I was like, we're gonna go to an event because there was this event which was just basically going out to dinner with a bunch of people. And there was going to be like a small speaker at a dinner in a restaurant. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to message the host. It was sold out. And I messaged the host the morning of. And I was like, listen, if someone cancels, sign me up, please. I forced myself because I was feeling that I had that like temptation where I wanted to stay home because the bed is so comfortable, right? Like it's being home is like your safe space. But the problem is that something gets sacrificed. And you know what's funny is I was talking to a girl I met there, like it was very fun. And I met a girl there and she was like, Nikia, I'm introverted. So she was like, I usually have to force myself to get out because if I don't get out, it's like I begin to feel lonely and I begin to feel down. And then I was telling her, I was like, listen, I went through that journey, and I'm like, you literally have to fight. Like, you literally have to force yourself to like go outside, like, and do something that you enjoy doing. Like, I don't care if you have to go outside to dinner by yourself and eat something, anything you enjoy. Like, what I started doing too was I would just sometimes just walk outside and go and get ice cream, like something so simple. And if you don't know me, like, I actually started eating way more healthier and taking out sugar and all that stuff, like, and like replacing more healthier foods. But you know what I told myself? I'm like, you know what? If it means that me going outside to get like a small ice cream raises my mood, and while I'm taking a walk through a trail, I will do it. Like, myself is worth it to do something like that. Like, something that can be so simple. And I remember I was talking to my dietitian, and she said something so simple, but it really touched me. And I remember I was telling her, and I was like, I had one pasta for the week. And I'm like, I don't know if I should have ate that, da da da. And I really liked what she said. And she was like, Nikia, you have 21 meals in a week, and you ate pasta once. And she's like, that's a win. And she was like, it's okay to enjoy yourself. And I'm like, I did enjoy myself. That pasta was delicious. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, like, sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. Like, we beat up ourselves, and we just, like, we beat up ourselves when we feel like we've messed up, or we beat up ourselves when we feel like we've hurt back. And I would say is that if you want to get back out, sometimes it's just doing that one little thing. Like, you don't have to go outside every day, right? Maybe you stay in the house 4 days, and then you go out one day out the week, and it makes a big difference. But the goal is that if you see yourself reverting back, you need to promise yourself that you're going to do something to get yourself out, or at least get your mood up a bit. So if you know that you're at a 3, you're gonna be like, what can I do? What can I do right now that will get me from a 3 to a 5? Something so simple. And those little things can make all the difference. Like, I can't tell you the times, like the amount of days, like sometimes I'll feel kind of low, and I'll be like, you know what, let's go for a walk and we'll get some like ice cream. I'll get ice cream, and I will come back home feeling like $1,000,000. And I'm like, man, like, something so simple, right? You enjoy like, one of my favorite things is going outside and taking a walk and just eating some ice cream. Like, I think it's the most beautiful thing. Now, I wouldn't really eat it in the house, like, but like going outside and taking a walk and eating ice cream is a vibe. And looking at all the forests and the trees and all that, vibe, a complete vibe. And so, yeah, so I want to say this is that failure, sorry, failure is an opportunity, because I have a note here. So failure is an opportunity, and we have to start seeing it as that. And it doesn't mean it's not an opportunity for you to throw in the towel. And I find that once you learn how to treat failure throughout your life, like different areas in your life, it starts to seep out in different ways. I found that in my personal life, because I used to really be hard on myself, especially like professionally. Still am, but not as before. I found that once I started to work on myself in terms of when I'm hard on myself, or if I revert back, or I'm trying to get my mood up, or I found out once I learned like how to overcome failure, or how to overcome feeling like beating myself up, um, it got easier in other things, in other areas. I thought that was very interesting. And so now it's like, if I go on a sales call, for example, and someone says no, I'm like, okay, bye. Like, that's that. Like, I remember like years ago, like if someone said no, like I was just like, oh my goodness. Right? But what I realized is that when you are getting no's, when something negative happens, it's an opportunity to grow. Um, it feels bad at the time, but negative situations tends to widen your scope. Like, if everything was always yeses and everything, if you were always excited all the time and you never experienced what it meant to be sad and vice versa, you never appreciate the days when you're full of joy and full of excitement. Like, when you cry, it's an opportunity to it's an opportunity to appreciate when you feel better, right? It's just those little moments, right? We take it for granted because we think we should be a certain way, but really that's not the case. Um, like, I remember someone told me this advice, and I always remembered it. And they're saying your goal, if I phrase it right, they said your goal should be to say, this was from a business standpoint though, but they said your goal should be to get so many no's that when you get a yes, it's like your whole world changes. Or the goal should be you get so many no's that it comes to a point where eventually it doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't phase you. It just makes you get better, right? Like, all those difficult moments, all those times when you feel like a hermit, you know what that means? All those times when you're isolating, it's just an opportunity for you to know what it feels like to go outside. It's an opportunity to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, right? If you just went outside and never experienced what it's like to be isolated and lonely, you would never push yourself. You would never want to make friends. Like, some of my most profound moments, if you watch that video, where I talk about how Mexico changed me. Like, when I went to Mexico, I was extremely depressed. Like, I lost my job. I lost my job. I was so depressed. I was so low. Like, business was like not booming. And I remember I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, "You might as well just go." Like, and I didn't think anything of it. And when I went there, I got to see a whole different perspective. I got to see a bigger picture. And actually, going on that trip was what allowed me to see what I was doing wrong at home. It got me to see why I was feeling lonely and very unhappy with my life. It was because of that. Because I noticed that I wasn't unhappy when I went to Mexico. And I was like, what am I doing different? And you know what I was doing different? I was going out. I was going to salsa dancing. I was going to little classes here and there. But if I hadn't been depressed, if I haven't been, like, all those things, if I hadn't lost my job, I probably wouldn't have gone to Mexico for the first time. I probably wouldn't have done it solo. Like, every experience you have. So you have to ask yourself, okay, like, I'm feeling like I'm a hermit. I'm trying to get out. Okay, it's like, okay, what do I need? What do I need to do to feel the opposite of that? Or what do I need to do so I get out the house? Or what can I do that inspire me to get out the house? Why am I feeling that way? Like, why am I feeling like, even though it's comfortable, why am I feeling like I don't want to say almost feel like, okay, this is what I truly want to say, I'll be honest. It's like, why do I feel like being something's off of being a hermit? And then you answer the question because you know deep down what you need to do. That's why you're feeling that feeling, right? That's what happened to me last week. I was like, why am I saying bored? Like, why am I saying I'm bored? It's like, what do I need to do so I know we'll say that again? And that's when this week I was like, even if I go for a walk, because like I said, when you're down here, you can only do little things. Like, you're not going to be like going on a whole trip. So I was like, okay, let's go on more walks. We'll go on that one event. And honestly, that was good. Like, that filled my cup, right? And so those are the questions you have to ask. But you see, what the key thing is that I think why people it gets harder and harder to get out is people don't ask themselves that question, and then they stay in it. Like, I can't tell you the amount of people I'll meet in general, like socially, and it's like, okay, so what are you doing to change that? And it's like they're not doing anything to change it. Like, that's like, you have to be willing to change it. Like, if you just stay in it and you're doing the same thing over and over, like, I don't want to say it gets worse, but you just stay in the same area. Like, there's no change. Like, and that's one of the reasons why, like, I appreciate a productive conversation. Um, but the one of the biggest things is my pet peeve is if I meet someone and you keep on giving them advice. You ever had that? And then they just keep on complaining, and it's like, okay, so like, why are we having this conversation? You keep on complaining, but you don't want to make changes, or you make excuses when you know you need to make the change and you know what you need to do, but you keep on complaining. My biggest pet peeve is when people complain, because it's a sign that they feel like it's like they're stuck and they can't make the changes. Um, and there's just a lot of negative antidote when you are just complaining. Um, it's something that I used to do when I didn't get it. So when I felt stuck, I would just complain. But now that I've like grown and like seen things happen, I get to see like complaining is not necessarily the best thing. It's just not like when I used to complain, I would be calling up people. I'd be trying to get like, like people to give me a hug and say, okay, it's okay, Nikia. And I'll be having these pity parties. Like literally I'd have a pity party. And I'd be complaining and be like, I don't like this and I don't like that. And like it's amazing to see how much I've grown. Right? Because last week I didn't do any of that. I was just like analyzing. I'm like, huh, this is very interesting. I'm saying I'm bored. So what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? So always be asking yourself questions. Don't ever feel like you're stuck. Um, and you're never out of resources. Yeah, there's always some small change you could do. One of the biggest number one thing people like not complain but say like uses a main like I would call it objection, right, from a personal standpoint, is they'll usually say, well, I don't have any money to like go out. And it's like, okay, but there's a lot of things that you could do that's like very low cost. Like today I went downtown. Okay. I went downtown in my area and I was like, look at all these nice cafes. Like, you don't even need a lot of money, dude. You just go and sit down and like you're good to go. Your mood will change. And like as I was driving, like I saw people setting up their little like violin and stuff. And I'm like, see, that's a vibe. Like there's so much low cost things. Like there's always a solution for everything. Like you always meet yourself wherever you are. Like there shouldn't be any barriers. Like yes, if you're like cash is tight, there's always something else you can do and so on. Like never feel that you're stuck. Like refuse to refuse to accept that. It's when you start accepting the complaints and you start accepting your situation and you're not trying to find a solution, that's when things get a little um it gets a little hard because you're accepting it, so it's just hard to make the change. Just what is just ask yourself questions. So I had a meet and greet. I see Daisy here. And so if you haven't been to the meet and greet, it was one of the first meet and greets I ever did. And I have to admit, I was very nervous. I got the idea and I was like, huh. I'm like, I wish more YouTubers did this. So I was like, I did a little meet and greet and um, I went through it. It was very uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. I was like, it was to the point where I didn't even set up any notifications. I was just like, whoever wants to come, they can come. Also, I'll just go for a walk. Like that was the plan. And so we had two ladies show up, and it was actually very good. Like, I highly suggest, even if like if you're not getting your socialization outside and you're just like, Nakia, listen, I'm a homebody, I'm staying inside, you need to come. Just come. Like it was such a great conversation. And I was so happy I went because it was just very supportive women, just like, giving her insights. We're talking about all different types of things, dating, business purpose, everything. And it was so refreshing to have a conversation like that. You don't realize how hard it is to do. And um it's just nice to be vulnerable, like coming from you know like the typical black woman. I'm actually gonna come out with a video about that. It's just coming out from being always trying to be independent and just trying to be strong. Like I love that area of just being able to show up and meet up other women and just like relax and just be soft. Like you're not like worried about being defensive. You're just showing up and you're just being that. I would call it that soft life. Like you're just there to be yourself. Like the mask has come off. Like no, everyone just showed up the way they wanted to look, whatever. Like and you're just yourself. Like it's so refreshing to just be that. Like you don't have to have any typical jargon, work from home jargon. You just say what you have to say and like disagree. Well, we didn't have anything like that where we're disagreeing though. Maybe if there's more people coming. So I did put the link I actually put the link in the description to sign up for the next one. It's gonna be July 23rd. Of next month. So it's gonna be always the third Tuesday or something like that every month and keep that going. Yeah, it was good vibes, Adrian. You should come. Like go into the description. It was actually a really good vibe. Like I honestly went on that call. Cause remember I told you last week I was a little, I was a little like, a little low, isolating, and I went on a call. And I was like, man, that I came on that call feeling like a million bucks. Like I was like, okay, and then I went on a walk, and I was like, oh, this is good. I'm like, I need to do those things. Like it's something about socializing with women, and it was black women, so it was awesome. Like we get each other, but obviously all is welcome. But I love that conversation, so I encourage you guys to come. Um, and it's just, I think Daisy made a good point. Like not a lot of people are willing to go there and show their face and go online, but I think it's just nice to interact and have conversations. Like we need that. We need more stuff like that. Um, but yeah, other than that, um, yeah, unless there's anything you guys want to say, like the workshop's coming up. It's probably going to be a small one, like a small workshop. And it's for people who want to learn more about the purpose or come up with a plan, help you get your first client, grow your business. I've been in business for over 8 years. And so I enjoy helping people. I love stuff like that. And so it's coming up July 13th. And it's one of my first like workshops. So I'm excited. It's going to be very, intimate, one-to-one. And I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I just wanted to come in here for this week to share more just about my isolating week and how I got out of that. Because we need to talk about it more. Um, you know, I'm thinking about this too. Like, I remember I had a friend where I didn't hear from her for weeks, and I remember reaching out, and she was like, Nikita, I was coming out to be a little bit of a hermit. And you know what my encouragement will be for you is if you're feeling like you are starting to be isolated, reach out to someone and plan something. Like, reach out to someone and plan some type of dinner. That's what I did actually this week. I forgot to mention that. I went in a Facebook group, and one of those like friends groups, and then we ended up planning a whole dinner. I ended up taking over, and there's five of us going tomorrow, and we're gonna be new. It's gonna be like everyone's gonna be new, and we're going tomorrow. And so I encourage you, if you're feeling isolated, push yourself to go plan a dinner or go like big, small dinner and go out somewhere, right? You don't have to wait on people to invite you. Like make something that you enjoy doing. That's the benefit. Everyone always wants to wait for someone to plan something, but it's so much better to plan it yourself because you could go to the restaurant that you want to go to that you enjoy. You don't have to wait on anyone. That's what I like about it. Um, your last business was sabotage. Oh, girl, what happened? What happened with that? What do you mean sabotage by you or someone else? Yes, and if you're feeling that way, you should. Ooh, I have to remember. Others. That's a hard one. Was it more opinions or was it more so them like discouraging you? What was it around? Family. You know, I know I've spoken about it when it comes to your business. Um, I don't mean this in a bad way. Some of the biggest supporters are usually, see, yeah. Um, I actually, when it comes to business, I'm very protective of it. I treat my business like a baby. Like literally, it's like a baby. And I found that sometimes friends and family are not the best supporters. It's usually people that you don't know. Like it's usually people that you don't trust. I've learned that very quickly. I'm not saying like you can't like I'm not saying that you can't tell your friends and family, but usually it's because friends and family know you. They know you from they're used to how you were before. They don't understand the change. They don't understand the new you. So it's very hard to inspire them. I don't want to say convince because you don't need to convince anyone, but it's very hard to inspire s some of what your dreams are, and they don't understand it. They don't see it. They're only used to seeing the old you. Um, I would encourage you to read The Law of Prosperity by Catherine Ponders because she talks a lot. It's not just about like finance. She talks about all different things in life. And one of the things she says, and I already knew this, but it's still like it lit a fire in me, is she was always saying like when it comes to your dreams, like she's like protected at all costs. And she was like, if someone says anything negative, in back of your mind you should be saying the opposite of that. So if they're saying, well, is that gonna work? Like you just tell yourself, keep it saying in your mind, yeah, it's gonna work, it's gonna work. When people ask like, oh, how's your business going? You tell them, hey, it's going well. Like you do not ever speak like nil of it. And I thought that was like a really good one. And I actually took that advice into like my personal life. Now, not saying like, oh, I pretend. Like I'm not saying like I don't ever tell anyone like be vulnerable, because I'm pretty vulnerable here. But there's just sometimes you need to lift yourself up. And so when people ask you, your life can be going crazy. And you speak into it, you're like, yeah, man, business is going good, life is going well, whatever that may be. And you say those things. And she actually said to do that because she was like, you know why? There's so many people that are negative in the world. There's so many people that have a lot of opinions about what you're doing, right? And she was like, you don't need to add to it. You don't need to do those things. Like, there's so many people have so many opinions because they're very unhappy about their lives. Usually it's related to that. They're unhappy about where they are, and then they like project it, right? It's inside out. Yes, The Laws of Prosperity by Catherine Ponders. One of the best books. One of the best books out there. She will give it to you. She really changed my perspective in a different way. And I tell people, you shouldn't be telling, especially if they're not a trusted source or they don't have the life that you want to live, you should not be telling them. Because family will discourage you. I remember I told someone years ago, like when I was not nearly as confident as I am now, okay? And I remember years ago, I asked someone, this was maybe my first ever YouTube channel. And I asked her, I was like, hey, like, can you give me feedback on it? And I remember like it was so discouraging, and I don't remember what she said, but I just remember feeling discouraged and I stopped making videos. And so basically, I did the exact thing that Captain Pounder said not to do. You don't be telling people your dreams because people will rip you apart. And also on the other side, it's like you have to believe in yourself so much, to the point where you don't let other people dictate like what you're doing and how you should be feeling about yourself and the next actions you take. Because you know what's gonna happen? People forget about what you're doing. People get caught up in their lives, and before you know it, 5 years down the line, you're gonna be like, wait, why did I stop doing that business? Why did I stop doing that dream? Now, like Jerry out there is doing something else, and they're running away with, they're doing their own thing. Like they forget about you. Like you stop your business, and then they're running, doing their own thing. That was the biggest like hit for me. Is I'm like you literally can't listen to people's opinion. I know everyone says it sounds cliche, but like people will give advice in a moment, and then they go on with their lives and do other things. Oh yes, thanks, Adrian. And also I saw you. Yes, and yes, and thank you for the encouragement about the whoever said it about the workshop. I appreciate it. I encourage you too, like if you want, Adrian, come to the workshop. Like we'll make a whole new plan, girl. Get you all feeling all sparkly clean. Yes. And I'll give you that pep talk. I'm ready for you guys. I'm ready to give all these points and like give you like real plans. Like, and I'm not gonna play around. Like, I'm gonna be touching base with everyone. I'm like, this is like we're in an environment where we're gonna like. I want to see more people thrive. I want to see more people win. And I want to see more people believe in themselves so much that outside opinions don't matter. Right? I've spent my life, okay? I spent my life constantly getting validation from people. I literally lived my life like that. Always getting validation from people. And you know what happened? I didn't do a lot of the things that I wanted to do because people were giving me opinions. Like I didn't do a lot of the things. I missed out on a lot of things because people used their own fear to project on me, and then I didn't do it. So it's like, don't let your family, yes, it happened, but continue to work on yourself. Just continue to be reading books. Read The Law of Prosperity. I think it will get you piped up. I'm coming up with a video, and I'm gonna be giving you some tips and like things I learned from that book, and I think you guys will like it. It's gonna be on what is it about. It's gonna be a whole series. I'm excited. I want to tell you guys even. It's gonna be a whole series. It's gonna be a 3-part series. On lessons I've learned, but also like real thing, like sabotage, like the survival mode, like how I got to that. Like we're gonna talk about it because I want to see like even more Black people win in general. Like we go through so much. Like it's so traumatizing sometimes of what we go through. A lot of families have a lot of opinions. Like I can't tell you the amount of times like people in my family, okay, would speak over my life and be like, "Oh, you're not going to be successful," and speak things over me, and I break those things off, right? Like, and those things, those people are not even in my life anymore. That's the funny part, and that's like, if someone is not adding to your life, I don't care if they're family, they need to be like cut out your life. Like you need to cut out the fat. I know this is not what you're people should be telling you, but I believe like if someone's not adding to your life and they're bringing you down and they're bringing you down on your dreams, and it means that every time you speak to them, it makes you want to, you feel like failing, it's time to cut them out of your life. Time. It's time. Don't keep them in there. Do not keep them in your life if they're not adding to them, whether it's family, friend, like very close friends. I don't care. Like the only people that should be in your life is people that are like people who are raising you up, like people who are positive in your life. Do you know I have a friend that I met, and I want to be clear because I always hear this like, oh, everyone has to be in business to like support you. Like that's not the case. I don't keep only business friends, but I do keep friends who are very positive in my life. Who are very encouraging. Do you know I have a friend? Let me go back to it. Where she likes all my reels videos. Okay, she watches my video. It's the sweetest thing, and I'm like, see, this is the type of friends I want. Like they just support your stuff. They don't say anything negative. She always says, "Yeah, Nikia, like I believe it's gonna grow. You're doing everything." This girl went on my email list. Like this girl, you want that type of friend or that type of family member, like whatever that is. You want those type of people around you, and you want people who encourage you in the low moments, but also in the high moments, because usually people get jealous when you start growing. Okay. People get very jealous. Your friend's true color doesn't come out when you're in your lowest moments, it's in your high moments. And you want to keep those friends around. You want to, absolutely. But yeah, I just encourage you, girl, stay encouraged. Don't let people dictate your actions. And it's okay. I'm sure you learn from them, right? You now know who to keep in your corner, right? The next time you start your business again or continue your business. So it's always a learning moment. And yeah, feel free to check out a workshop if you want to come. Like I'm there to help you if you want to come. And check out the book as well. But yeah, I think that's it for now. Otherwise, let me know if you have any questions, but I think that's it for now.